Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Bonnie Moore. Bonnie is a retired management consultant and attorney, and also the founder of Golden Girls Network. Bonnie, welcome to 60 and Me.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm really glad to have you here because I've been reading your book, which talks about your service, Golden Girls Network. And perhaps you can just tell us real briefly, for those that didn't see the earlier video, what Golden Girls Network is. And then I'd love you to help us guide us through your book. And I've got some questions for you. But tell us about Golden Girls.
Golden Girls Network is a database for mature adults who are interested in shared housing, who want to live like the Golden Girls. So it works like Match.com. You register as a homeowner or you register as a roommate, and then you communicate with each other. And if you think you have a match, you can take it offline and take it from there.
Okay, great. So you've got about 1,000 people in your network right now, and you're basically in the United States at the moment, but you're expanding globally in time.
In time.
Okay. So this is great. So it's a way for people who have a place to rent a room, to find a roommate, and for a roommate to find a place to live. Yes. Which seems really cool to me for women in our age group. So good job on that. Now, you wrote a book, and I actually have a copy of it because I've been reading it, and it's called Golden Girls, How to Start a Golden Girls Home. And it's actually a brilliant little book. It's only, about maybe 100 pages, but it's so thoughtful, Bonnie. You go through everything. So could you just take us through, give us the tips that you cover in your book, both from the householder's perspective and also from the roommate. So what are guide us through it?
Well, let me start with the homeowner. Once she decides that she wants to do this, she needs to look at her house as if she was someone coming to live there. Is it fresh and clean? The room that you're going to be renting out, does it need painting? Does the carpet need to be shampooed? Declutter. It's always good to declutter, get rid of stuff. Right. So the first chapter is all about that, getting the house ready. Now, for instance, in the kitchen, one of my comments is you need to give someone shelves, pantry type shelves.
Their space, right.
Their space, so that she has a place to keep her stuff.
Right.
She needs to have a shelf in the refrigerator so that she knows this is where she can put her stuff. Okay. If there are things that are being shared, you can put them someplace else. Very practical thing. Now, in my house, I have lots of pots and pans and dishes, and I tell people everybody can use stuff. If you have things that you don't want used, you need to put them away or identify them as, no, this is not for everyone to use.
Right.
But certainly, it's easier and it's more practical to make your stuff available because people often move in not having very much because they've just gotten rid of a lot of stuff. Right.
They're starting over. Yeah.
So those are some of the thoughts in terms of getting the house ready. If you have a pet, you need to walk in the door and make sure your house doesn't smell. People don't realize that their pets smell.
Yeah.
And that first impression is the most important point.
Okay, so making a good impression, seeing your home actually through the eyes of the person that's coming in, through the eyes of a stranger. What other things would you do to prepare? I mean, I guess the one we talked about this earlier. First of all, know yourself. Know really clearly. Maybe even make some notes. You have a template, don't you, in here, like a checklist?
Yes. The second chapter is actually that. It's called that. Know yourself.
Okay. Great.
Talk about look at what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of choosing somebody, sometimes there are things that are deal breakers, like smoking or pets.
Right.
Sometimes there are other things that you're not going to be able to live with. Well, you need to think about that stuff. Yep. It's always different for everybody. So I can't say these are the 6 things. And then there are items that are areas that there are no right and wrong answers, but you need to understand who you are and how this fits into your life, because you're looking for someone who will fit into your life. An easy example is someone who's a vegetarian. Yeah. A vegetarian who really does not like the smell of bacon in her kitchen. She's going to have to find another vegetarian.
Right.
Cleanliness factors, personality factors, sometimes even trying to match education or hobbies.
Mm-hmm. Or even work styles. I mean, we talked earlier about, if you're looking for a roommate that's going to be company for you, to make sure that they're not working the shift, when you're home.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
So knowing yourself, I think that's really important. Okay. That's another tip, is to be really, before you let anyone in, even in the house for an interview, be sure that you know and we talked about this before, what your non-negotiables are, that maybe you don't want a pet, or you don't want firearms in your home, or you don't want someone whose religious beliefs are manifest in, behaviors that you wouldn't agree with, or whatever. Like you talked about a lady who she had a religious belief, or she didn't like decorations, like birthday or Halloween decorations. Nothing, offensive, but it was she just didn't want to be in a home that
exactly. That was it.
Yeah.
That was her religion.
Yeah.
They didn't do birthdays. I do birthday parties. I do Halloween decorations. I do Christmas. It takes me 2 days to put up my Christmas decorations.
Yeah. So knowing what's important to you.
Yes.
Okay.
So something very simple like that. So take some time, write it down, buy the book, and go through the book, because these are things that most people don't even think about.
Do you do a background check, or is that part of the Golden Girls process?
We are working with a background check company. We will have that service on our website soon. But it's optional. And it's actually a combination credit check, background check.
Okay. So if somebody takes the conversation offline, like we were talking about, and just, they come to their home to check out the property, can an individual do a private background check? Or
sure.
And then so you can be able to feel safe that I guess that they are employed, or is that one of the issues that you need to check?
Yes, when you're interviewing someone, it's fair to ask them about their employment, and it's even fair to confirm it, because you want to know that the person's able to pay the rent. Now, I have had women who've come to me just out of a divorce or bad credit situations, and they'll tell me that. They say, well, if you're going to check my credit, here's the situation.
And that's okay, in a way, don't you think? I mean, as long as they can pay.
Sure.
Yeah. And make their fair share.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And I guess you have to use your own kind of intuition. I think you mentioned that in the book, that you, at that point when that woman's sitting next to you there, you have to really put out all your antenna and just kind of feel it as well.
I had a woman that I talked to not too long ago. Very nice person, but we didn't click. And my sense was she wouldn't fit in with the other people.
Yeah.
And so that was there was nothing wrong with her at all, but I just didn't click with her. Usually we click.
You've got a lady behind you there, one of your roommates.
She just walked by. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. This is your home. This is great. No, so this is good. So we got a few tips on how the householder would look at the relationship, and the book goes through in great detail all these wonderful questions and things you can ask. What about the roommate? What should they be thinking about?
Well, the roommate also has to look for the same thing. Am I going to click with the person that I'm living with? Because you want to feel comfortable. You don't want to feel like you're on edge, or that you don't have anything in common that you can talk about.
I guess, and also I suppose you as a roommate, are you probably in the more, needy situation where you haven't got a home, so you're looking for somewhere to live and you're maybe a little desperate. But you also have to know what your non-negotiables are. I mean, it's no good saying, like you said, I'm a vegetarian and all right, I can deal with the bacon, but knowing in your heart that you really it's not going to work. And I guess that's maybe, is that a tip, is like, be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've had some people who have moved in. The interview always goes well. You don't really see the character until the second month.
Yeah.
The second month is always when the differences start coming out. Mm-hmm. And the interview is an awful lot like a job interview. Yeah. Everybody's on their best behavior.
They were in their best dress. Yeah.
Yes. And so you have to try to see beyond it. Try to sense what that person is like. If one thing that has always been a problem is when somebody is very negative about a lot of things. They're constantly complaining or finding fault or nitpicking. That doesn't work in a roommate situation. Mm-hmm. You really have to try to approach things with a positive attitude. And I keep stressing that it's important to always look at life from the best side and not the worst side.
Yeah, we talked about that in terms of the qualities of a good roommate. And I think being like open-minded, we talked about, and you being non-judgmental, and those are all important things, but it's okay to have preferences, and it's okay to know who you are and what's not going to work. I mean, this is going to be your home. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to, and I know that you go through all of these. What are some, issues that, people should look out for, like warning signs perhaps, or things that might be red flags? If you're a roommate now, we're talking about if you're going to someone's home.
In the interview, again, I would be looking for how flexible this person might be. Is she going to be very rigid about cleanliness and this and that? Is it going to be so rigid that you're not going to feel comfortable in your own home?
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's some scenarios that you could put in your mind, like you could even ask. I'm just thinking, like, well, what if I was to bring home a guy? What would your reaction be? Like, and ask questions like scenario based, like, well, what if I decided to get a cat, or
those are all things that need to be talked about up front. Mm-hmm. So for instance, and you bring up something very important, and that is overnight guests. Mm-hmm. Some people are fine with it and some people are not. And that really needs to be established in the lease and in the house agreements. If it's not okay, you don't do it.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's not okay. But this is where your attorney background comes in really handy, Bonnie, because you know all the things that can go wrong, and I think you make, I don't know if we've said it this time, but you absolutely have to write it down. There has to be a written agreement that both people sign, and if there's a problem, you can go back and say item number 10 was that you would not do this, and I guess you give a warning, and I suppose it depends on what the action is.
Yes. So yes, that's ending it. That's the last chapter. Let's go back. Once you figure out who you're looking for, then you have to start advertising. Then you have to go through an interview process, and there's a whole chapter of interview type questions. Right. Mm-hmm. Here are good answers and here are bad answers. So then you get to that point where you find somebody and you say, yes, let's do this. You need the lease.
Right.
I also strongly recommend written house agreements. And the house agreements can be little details. This is the way we do this. This is the way we do that type of thing. Right. The written house agreements establishes what your expectations are more than anything else. And you do have the backup. If somebody does something inappropriate, you can say, that's a violation of the house agreements. Right. And if it continues, we're going to have to end this. That gives you the ability to do that. I in fact talked to a woman yesterday who's dealing with a situation like that. She called me to say, what do I do about this? And I says, and I gave her some advice, and that's part of the value of being in a network is you can call somebody.
You're right.
And, I made some suggestions to the woman. I also said, add that to your house agreements.
Right.
This is an issue.
And I guess the house agreement has to be something that everybody in the house agrees to.
Yes.
So if you've got 4 other women, you're going to have to get them involved in the conversation as well. And is that how you do it? I mean, I presume that you would meet one-on-one as the woman with the home, and then you would involve the other 4 people, or how would you do it?
My house agreements evolved over time. As I had an issue, I would write something in the house agreements. And so now, they're pretty set. I haven't changed them for 2 or 3 years. We just haven't had any big issues that come up. But right. I give it to somebody when they're interviewing, and I say, here are the house agreements. This is the way we do things here. Yeah. If you have questions or issues, let's talk about it. Let me know. And that resolves a whole lot of stuff before it ever starts.
Yeah. No, I think that we've gone through quite a bit of really valuable information about this whole process of, finding a roommate. And I would highly recommend that people check out the book. It's available on Amazon, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can get it on Amazon, How to Start a Golden Girls Home. And it's Bonnie Moore. And I think if you read this through, if you're considering letting your home or finding a place to live, all your answers will be in there. So thank you, Bonnie, so much. I'm very grateful for your time, because I know this is going to be helpful to our 60andMe ladies. Have you got any thoughts? I mean, if somebody was like thinking, oh, well, this sounds like a kind of good idea, or having any doubts, what would you say?
I would say, try it. You're not going to know until you try it. And we're always available to talk to people, and our, we've got a great customer service person, and we help people talk through some of these issues.
Bonnie, I really wish you every success with this. I think you're actually offering something so valuable to older women and men. You've got some men in your world as well. And I'm very happy to have had the chance to learn more from you. And it's given me a lot of food for thought. Thank you.
Great.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Take care.
Bye-bye.